You know, I love the blatant double standard to the left wing media when it comes to them promoting blatantly fake hate crimes and whatnot, as opposed to right wingers saying some guy who says Allahu Akbar before he shoots and stabs people is a Islamic terrorist. You know, you'll get called a racist. You'll be like, hey, wait for all the evidence and the facts before you make an allegation about this, even though his name is Islamic and he killed only white people, and you know, he says he's, you know, fighting for Islam, is he and ISIS. Oh, doesn't matter. Wait for all the evidence, you bigot. But when it comes to Jussie Smollett, you know, it's blatantly false. I made a video about this when it first came out. I'm like, yeah, this is fake. This is clearly fucking fake. But they ran with it. They knew it was fake too, but that doesn't matter. They want to push their narrative. In the media, they're, if not as responsible or more responsible for Jussie Smollett, because they pushed this every day, had him on his shows, gave him a platform, acted all sympathetic, gave him softball interviews, allowed him to peddle this story. And then they want to come out now and they're releasing all these articles, like CNN made one earlier today, trying to say like, well, this happens all the time, guys, so you can't really blame us for this, for jumping to conclusions, right? And this is the narrative that they're trying to push now. And it's like, this is an article from CNN. The hate Jussie Smollett is accused of faking happened to me. And it just goes into a story about some gay guy and how he was jumped by two people because he was gay. And this type of stuff happens all the time. And then there's another article from The Atlantic that was written like a couple days ago. And, you know, right away it starts with, in 1880, Johnson Chestnut Whitaker, one of the earliest black cadets at West Point, was found bound, gagged, and unconscious in his room. He had been slashed with a knife, pages of his Bibles found torn and strewn around the room. Whitaker had been ostracized by white students who now insisted that he had made the whole thing up. So, you know, he brings up some story about in the 1880s, how some guy didn't make something up and nobody believed him, and how this is exactly like that case. All these white people, they want to hold on to this Jussie Smollett fake hoax to justify their belief that this doesn't happen and America isn't a racist country and all this stuff. And nobody denies that racism fucking happens. But America isn't the racist country that leftists and progressives try to make it out to be. It isn't as bad as they try to make it out to be, because the same people try to do that here in Canada, and we have a completely different history. And they're like, oh, you're just as bad, and you're all racist, white supremacist history, residential schools, yada, 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 yada. But, you know, they're really trying to justify themselves pushing this story, and they're like, well, it happens all the time, and these hoaxes are rare, and, you know, they're, you know, hate crimes are still happen disproportionately to people of color, minorities, and Jewish people, and barely any of them happen to white people. But, you know, as we see, it's extremely hard for white people to have a hate crime committed against them. Extremely hard. You know, you could have some guy yelling, I hate all white people, attacking you with a hammer, and you'll be like, well, it wasn't really racially motivated, this guy's crazy, blah, blah, blah. You know, there was that retarded kid, or sorry, not whatever, the kid with autism, who was apprehended by those 4 black people. They scalped him a little bit. They abused him, tortured him, saying all these things. And that wasn't classified as a racist hate crime. So that doesn't get put in the books, right? And a lot of things that, you know, they get classified as hate crimes. We're like, is that really a fucking hate crime? You know, and it's very easy. You know, it could just be like a fight between a white person and a black person. The white person wins. It's a fucking hate crime. You know, it's going to be classified as a fucking hate crime. A gay person dies. It's a hate crime against gay people. You know, the context doesn't really matter, right? And they're acting like these hoaxes don't happen, but they do happen. And the problem, even if they're not numerous and there's still lots of attacks that happen, the problem is the media that is promoting these hoaxes. right? And it always has to do with Trump and white people and stuff. And there's like I saw this one article, there are like 15 hate crime hoaxes just within the past couple of years. And they're going through, like, you know, these churches that were spray painted with like Trump's America, white power, white this, and all turns out to be like a black guy who did it, this person who did it, that person who did it. And all these stories get promoted like crazy through the media. And that's the problem. Whereas the other day there was some guy who pulled a gun on a Trump supporter because he's a Trump supporter, and that's not going to be international news. That's not going to be used in all the newspapers by leftists to be like, oh, look at Trump, and his Trump supporters are all violent, extremist people, right? And when in reality, the people that are the violent, the extremists, the ones causing violence and whatnot, tend to be the people on the left. These are the ones who are calling to do, impeach Trump or get rid of Trump by any means fucking necessary. You know, Trump is the one. There's, like, if you think Obama had a lot of death threats, it doesn't even compare to what Trump is. How many people have tried jumping the border or the gate of the White House already? Have tried running on stage to tackle Trump? It's happened numerous times already. And then they're going to bring up, certain cases with right-wingers doing shit. And, once again, they're going to be like, hey, this thing was fake, but this stuff happens all the time, and it's still a problem. And anybody who's talking about this now, they're really just right-wing racists trying to use this to convince people that there's a leftist conspiracy going around, which there is. There is a bunch of leftists pushing this narrative, promoting stories like this to try to get the impression out there that Trump and his supporters are violent, going around the cities looking for black empire gay celebrities to attack in the street and throw fucking bleach on their faces. Like, anybody who believed this story is a retard. You're stupid. You're very fucking stupid. Or you knew it was fake and you pushed it for your own agenda, which is very serious allegation this guy made. He should go to prison for a long time, for quite a few years, in my estimation. Same with people who make like false rape accusations and all this. A lot of these people, they get like a slap on the wrist, whereas it's like, and what's also funny is this guy, he still like had his job. They just recently took him out of 2 episodes, whereas Roseanne Barr makes a tweet on Twitter that's could be considered a little bit racist or something. And then she loses everything, her career's devastated, she can't work ever again. Where this guy, he blatantly makes these accusations that, are racist. Like, this guy was going to accuse, Jussie Smollett was going to press charges against 2 white men if the police put them in front of him, but it was just 2 Nigerian buddies, so he didn't. And, thank God. But this guy was going to charge 2 innocent people and potentially put them in prison. This guy's a scumbag. He's a piece of fucking shit. And, there's a whole thing with Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and them wanting to pass the lynching law. And then, that got struck down. And then coincidentally, a couple weeks later or whatnot, this happened. So it's, who knows why the fuck this guy really did it. It looks suspicious nonetheless. And the media is just as complicit for pushing this blatantly false story, and it's because they want to push the message out there that Trump is promoting violence, is unhinged, and his supporters are just the same. And this is trying to get people to be fearful, to then retaliate. And then this also just helps leftists to then come in and promote more authoritarian laws, like taking away your gun rights, taking away, monitoring the internet, social media. It just gives more justification for them to do this type of stuff. The more conflict that they can brew, the more fighting that can happen, especially under Trump's presidency. They can just blame on Trump. You know, everything that bad happens, even if it's a bunch of left-wingers doing it, they're like, well, in Trump's era of America, blah, blah, blah. You know, it just gets blamed on him regardless. But this is a very serious allegation, and people need to be put away for these types of blatant falsehoods. And yes, there are real attacks, there's racism in the world and all that, but these different classifications that we have for murder, like, well, why do we have them anyways? Right? Really, murder is murder. Unless you're defending yourself, it should all be essentially the same punishment. You know, if you're murdering people, it's like, if I kill somebody with hate in my heart, does it really fucking matter? Does it make that much of a fucking difference? And these things get skewed as well, and they have a false perception of reality, because a lot of hate crimes, like I said before, are subjective. You know, are we really getting accurate numbers of the actual hate crime statistics that are going on? You know, there's that one Jewish guy who called in like 2,000 different fake hate crimes against Jews, who was a Jewish guy. And like, are these still on the books? Or did these people remove all the fake hate crimes that get, you know, later on found out to be untrue? You know, or are they still kept on the fucking books, right? So you can't even really take these into consideration, because they always just use this as more justification to bring in new laws, new restrictions, new this, new that. I saw this Jewish organization doing the same thing with, like, in Canada here, with the increase of attacks on Jews, or the increase of anti-Semitism. Oh, we need to enact this policy. We need to take the definition of anti-Semitism from this Israeli group that essentially says, like, any criticism of Israel is essentially anti-Semitism. Like, oh, if you don't like their foreign policy, it's because you have a double standard for Israel than other countries. And they're like, what? Like, what are you fucking talking about? But it just construes everything as anti-Semitism, and just gives the government more leeway to censor people, take away your freedom of speech. But the media, you know, if you still trust the media after them and this whole Jussie Smollett thing, your eyes are not open. They have a clear anti-white agenda. You know, this is what it is. People may not want to hear it. They don't want to hear this shit. But, you know, look at the Covington boy case with all that, the way the media reacted. Look at this blatantly false story, how the media reacted. And it all has to do with race. It all has to do with demonizing a certain segment of the population, which is white men. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.